Point AFR Talk. And again, I'm not saying this is true of all Muslims. Please do not misunderstand me. But Stockholm, Sweden has been dealing with a rash of rapes. Capital of Sweden is the European capital of rape. But if you look at Europe, most of the rapes, this rape epidemic that they're dealing with in European countries is at the hands of Muslim immigrants. Rape jihad in Denmark, more than half of all the convicted rapists in Denmark have immigrant backgrounds. In Oslo, Norway, there's been a 69% increase in rapes. 100% of those rapes, 100% of the rapes in Oslo, Norway have been Muslim immigrants. In Stavanger, Norway, 9 out of 10 rapists have a Muslim immigrant background, and Stockholm is reporting now an average of 5 rapes a day. Again, I'm not saying all Muslims do it. Do not misunderstand me. But clearly, they have very little respect. They're taught this in their religion, very little respect for women in general and Western women in particular. Focal Point, AFR Talk, number to call, 888-589-8840. If you want to share with our listening audience where you were when you heard the news about 9/11. Let's start with Jack in Kokomo, Indiana. Jack, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. Where were you when you heard about 9/11?
Yes, sir. I was working near Indianapolis at the Verizon Corporation and their collection systems when all this was going on, and of course, I didn't see it happen because I was at work. But my wife told me that she saw the second plane hit the tower, and part of the reason why I jumped on calling you so quickly is because of the anemic response to the situation that Verizon Corporation had, a telephone company, is that at that point it took them like a week before they had anything within the office itself where they made video, or what do you call it, copies of American flags off of the copy machine. And anybody who wanted to have a little American flag, they sent a paper copy of an American flag around to us. This is a major corporation, Fortune 500 company.
Wow.
Now, the thing, in addition to that, we got an email from one of the vice presidents out of New York City, and he was trying to tell us that we needed to be careful about how we thought or felt about what had happened in New York, that the people, the Islamic people, we needed to try to understand them about why they would do such a thing. So in other words, it's upon us who have just been blown up.
Well, you know, the one thing I agree with there, Jack, is I think it is important to understand why they would do such a thing. And the reason they would do such a thing is because we are infidels and their God orders them to kill us. I mean, what's difficult to understand about that? But I hear what you're saying. The whole point is, hey, we have to, we don't want to rush to judgment about this religion. President Bush was out there 2 days after it happened talking just mindlessly about how Islam is a religion of peace. All right, Jack. Well, listen, I appreciate that. That's truly a disappointing response from a major corporation. I didn't even see it. We didn't have cable at the time in our house, and I was on my way to a breakfast meeting. Debbie called me on the phone. I didn't even see the footage of the planes hitting the towers until almost noon that day when I got back home and could see it on network television. Let's go to Ken in Tampa, Florida. Ken, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
I was actually in a hotel, and my mom called me and told me to turn the TV on. But I wanted to share with you, with the bombers, how they read the Quran and they prayed on it before they blew everything up. I'm looking at part of the Quran right now, and just a real quick quote. It says here, it says, "We believe which has been sent down on us and sent down on Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, and Jacob, and the tribes, and that which was given to Moses and Jesus and the prophets of their Lord. We make no division between any of them, and to him we surrender." Now, that's in the Quran. What are these people studying?
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's what set off Major Nadal Hassan. Is he said, look, he's in the American Army. He was getting ready to be deployed to Afghanistan. And he said, look, I'm a Muslim. I am a Muslim first. I am an American second. and the Quran prohibits me from killing fellow Muslims. The Quran tells me to kill infidels, not Muslims. I can't go. I can't be deployed. And so in order to, his response to being deployed was to kill 13 of his fellow soldiers because it was more important to him not to kill Muslims than it was to serve his country. All right, Ken, thank you for that call. Let's go to Brian. Brian, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to talk with you about Islam, and I think it's at least interesting that a lot of the voices or a lot of the verses that we mentioned from the Quran seem to be taken pretty clearly out of context. That if someone were to do that to us, right? For example, where Jesus tells his disciples to buy a sword and carry it with them, or
right.
He says, "All who live by the sword will die by the sword." And we said, "See, that's evidence that Christianity is violence, and that we need to go out and kill lots of people." I think our natural response would be, "Hey, wait a second! You're not reading the whole verse."
Right, because what Jesus was talking there about was self-defense, what we have in the Second Amendment.
Sure.
Right.
But you need
so are you saying that this verse, slay the idolaters wherever you find them, arrest them, besiege them, and lie in ambush everywhere for them, that we're taking that out of context? It means something else?
Absolutely.
What does it mean?
Absolutely what I'm saying.
Okay, what does it mean?
That Muhammad, if you look at the story of when he was writing the Quran, was involved in fighting between his hometown of Mecca and his sort of adopted hometown of Medina, and all of the different commands that he gave involved various specific battles. Okay,
let me ask you this question then, Brian. If you're right that his commands were just specific to the challenges that he was dealing with, how come there aren't any Muslims out there saying what you're saying? I hear you saying it. No, Brian, I hear you saying it. I hear you saying, hey, those don't apply today. That was ancient history. That's not applicable today. How come I don't hear any Muslim preachers saying that?
You do.
Where?
Or at least you're not
where?
to the right
Ryan,
Muslims.
Where have you ever heard a Muslim preacher saying that? I haven't heard one.
I've heard every Muslim. I know a large number of Muslims. Every one of them I'm familiar with has that view.
Well, you operate in different circles, because I haven't read anything these people have said. I haven't seen any tapes. There's only one moderate Muslim I know of in America that's actually willing to speak out about these things. I mean, I've got stories in the stack here, Brian, from Muslim clerics just over the last 2 weeks calling for Allah to kill the infidels and slaughter the Jews. I've got a story about Muslims going from the Gaza Strip into a Jewish village, shouting Allahu Akbar and shouting at the top of their lungs, slaughter the Jews. So Brian, Brian, you're just out of touch, man. You are walking in the dark, my friend. You got to open your eyes and smell the napalm, buddy.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
The question is, how many non-Muslim countries have been conquered in the last, say, 12 years? Do you think more Muslims have died at the hands of Christian soldiers, or more Christians have died at the hands of Muslim soldiers?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. More Muslims have died at the hands of Muslims than anybody else. They kill each other just as soon as they'd kill us.
In Afghanistan, that say 100, it depends on who you ask, but roughly, the lowest estimates are about 80,000 civilians, and the highest estimates are about 200,000 civilian Iraqis died during our conquest of Iraq. There have been no conquests of non-Muslim nations in that time.
Well, Brian, you're pretty short-sighted, man. Islam started in Saudi Arabia in 632. By the end of the 8th century, they had conquered at the point of the sword all of North Africa, most of the Middle East, and were trying to take Europe.
That different than Rome or China or India? There have been many, many major empires, Greece, that have stretched from one side of the world to the other.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. So you're agreeing that they've been aggressive and territorial and tried to spread their empire at the point of a sword. You're admitting that point.
I'm admitting that every empire has
including Islam.
But not especially Islam.
Yeah, but you're admitting that they have done this. I mean, what I heard you saying is, no, they're not interested in war. They're not interested in military conquest. They don't want to. They don't want to kill the infidels. They don't want to expand Islam at the point of the sword at all. They're a peace-loving people. But now you're saying that's not what you meant.
No, that's not at all. I didn't say they were a peace-loving people. I said you were taking their verses out of context. And if you look at the number of Muslim killing non-Muslims and the number of non-Muslims killing Muslims, there are a lot more Muslim corpses around the world in the last 12 years than there are non-Muslim corpses.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know whose fault that is, Brian?
Yeah, ours.
No, Brian. The fault for that, the moral culpability for that, rests on the Muslims who attacked us on 9/11. If they attacked us on 9/11 and they killed 3,000 American citizens, we have the moral right to go and put a stop to that, to neutralize that threat. They're the ones that hide behind civilians. They will hide in houses, so if we take them out, we have no choice but to take out the civilians. We have not put those Muslims in harm's way. The Muslims have put their fellow Muslims in harm's way. Well, listen, Brian, I got to let you go. We are out of time for this first hour. Appreciate the exchange. And again, I don't know, sir and I'm not seeing context being a problem here. Slay the idolaters wherever you find them. Arrest them, besiege them, and lie in ambush everywhere for them. Make war on the leaders of unbelief. Make war on them. Believers, do not befriend your fathers or your brothers if they choose unbelief in preference to faith. Fight against such of those to whom the scriptures were given, as believe in neither God nor the last day, who do not forbid what God and his apostle have forbidden, and do not embrace the true faith. Fight against them. Because I'm not sure context is going to mitigate any of that, Brian. Focal Point, AFR Talk, back after the news.
American Family Radio, AFR Talk.
Once again, our nation stands at a crossroads. How we vote is pivotal for the future of our children and grandchildren. Seeing is believing. Unemployment, taxes, spending, religious freedom. Voting